my entire family's fate's like on my back. If I did not pull myself out of this, I was going to drag everybody down with me.
Well, Imelda, welcome to the show. Thank you for coming down.
Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, I really appreciate it. I mean, I saw your blog, 2 weeks ago?
Yeah.
It was about that when you put it out.
Yeah.
And literally, like, when I read it, it was like, that's my story. That's not word for word, but I definitely resonated with that. So can you tell just to people like what that is? So you run a business and you kind of got into a lot of debt. What's the story?
The blog that you read was part of a series, a 4-part series, 100k in debt to 100k a year. And basically I tell the story of my first startup, Let Us Find It. So I launched it in 2015 when I was 19 years old. And essentially what happened is I raised a lot of investment for the startup. So we launched as a fashion search engine. Initially, we were going to be comparing like loads of products all on one website. That's the easy way to say it. And then later, I added in a feature for like a shoppable Instagram, which is kind of done now, but it was a bit ahead of its time in like 2015.
Wow.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
I'm going to give myself a pat on the back for that.
For real.
But yeah, and so it was kind of, we had a lot of ups and downs with the business, and part of what I was detailing in the blog, which I never really got a chance to express before, was actually what I was going through personally at the time, which was that we had a lot of large celebrity deals coming through, and but we kept having issues with the tech. So, initially we had a web development company who delivered it late. Then I hired
So you outsourced it?
Yes. So I'm non-technical.
Right.
So I had a web development company that delivered the first version of the site late. Then kind of second round of tech problems was I then hired a web developer who said that he was going to have, 3 or 4 freelancers underneath him. And it turned out he was having none of that. He was keeping all the money himself.
Of course.
And he wasn't able to deliver what he was saying. At this point with him, I was speaking to Kylie Jenner. We were hoping.
Really?
Oh yeah. I'll name drop, so like Kylie Jenner. So we were speaking to Kylie Jenner at this point, hoping to get her.
This is 2015.
Back in 2015, maybe early 2016, she had green hair at that point. So she wasn't. I said she's going to be the number one in that family.
Yeah.
And she's the number one in the family, I know. And so we were eager to get her while she was like on the come up. So we were talking to WME Entertainment.
Yeah.
And we're very far along in those kind of conversations. We were going to get her to come on as like a stylist, and it was almost going to be like this weird live Reddit style upvote webcam thing. I don't know what we were thinking. It was a bit of a hot mess. And this random web developer from like Hull or wherever he was from said that he could deliver all of this. And then I got the site tested by somebody else because we kept having buggy issues all the while I'm doing this kind of deal. And it turned out that like the site was on a shared server, like he'd been coding in a different language on top of it and put in a separate folder.
Oh,
so
really?
It was just messy. And then fast forward a few more years, I had another web development company, and they basically said they'd be able to deliver me the new version of the site within 6 months. 18 months later, still didn't have it, had paid over £50,000, and each month they were telling me it was going to be the next month. So I started taking out personal loans and pumping them into the business.
So at this time, are you still brokering the deal for Kylie Jenner? Or?
I think by then the Kylie Jenner one had gone kaput.
Right.
But by this time we were talking to the Kardashians, we were talking to Kendall, we were talking to Scarlett Johansson, we had Idris Elba wanted equity in the business, we had Kelly Osbourne wanted equity in the business, Amber Rose, Chris Brown, Ariana Grande.
So how did you make those? How did those conversations start? Was it just like that they heard word from like the Kylie Jenner thing and then word got
No,
around?
I
Or
wish. So,
wasn't that easy, basically?
no. So, what happened? We basically launched our website. Within the first few months, we got a lot of sales. So like 21 grand in sales first month, 28 grand, 30 odd grand. Then month 3, all the sales dropped off, and basically our website connected with over like 1,000 retailers. I'll try not to go too technical, but it speaks back and forth to all of their websites. So we didn't hold any stock, we didn't hold any product, we didn't actually handle any payments. It was all on commission basis.
Right.
So fully kind of virtual platform. So it deals with like Topshop, Selfridges, everybody, Misguided, Pretty Little Thing. And basically anytime somebody would click from our search engine through to their website to make a purchase, we would get a kickback.
Right.
So we were passing traffic all the time over to these brands and delivering with the purchases. And after about 3 months, all the conversions dropped through the floor and we weren't making any money anymore because the people who had initially built the website hadn't made the website automated. So our website should have spoke back and forth to all of the other thousands of websites about what products are in stock, or the new stock that's coming in, price changes, everything else, and that wasn't being done. So as you know, fast fashion, after about 3 months, everything's changed, especially things like Misguided and Pretty Little Thing. Right. So people were seeing products that were on our website, clicking through to purchase them and getting error 404s. So we weren't getting any commission anymore. I didn't realise that until I'd paid the web developers and they had left. So, yeah, so that...
So how much staff do you have at this point?
About four staff.
Full time.
Yeah, so had already hired kind of pretty quickly. Had got an investor at that point. But yeah, circling back to what you said about brokering the deals with the celebrities. Yeah. After that happened, I essentially decided that what we needed was more traffic. So still wanting to do, fix the tech, but I'm non-technical and I'm sales and marketing background. So I was like, let's just chuck more traffic at it. We just need more eyes, more people. Doesn't matter if the conversion rates drop because we're going to have millions. So I thought, how can we get more traffic when we had no money because I'm kind of blasting through my investment? I'm going to get loads of celebrities to shout out our website for free. How do I do that? I'm going to make a shoppable Instagram. On their profiles, you'll have links to the products, same kind of thing. You want to buy the product, you click through, we get the commission. So I would basically email the celebrities' agents and kind of do quite a hard sales pitch of like, I always do this thing with Kate Middleton, the Topshop dress. She wore a Topshop dress out once and it sold out. And I always say, Kate Middleton didn't profit from that. Topshop did, using her influence. So why don't you kind of get on board and make some money off of your own influence. Let's monetize your following, which again, 2015, there was influencer marketing, but it wasn't really being said in this way. So they were going to get revenue shares from their pages. And I basically would just find I was really naughty. I was like 19 and just, when you're so confident that like, why wouldn't you want to work with my company? And just really ballsy. But yeah, I was really naughty. Basically what I would do is, somebody like Kylie Jenner, they don't just have one agent, they have a manager, a publicist, we had Kris Jenner's details. Yeah. So what I would do is I would CC everybody in an email together and say like, do a subject line like, let us find it, partnership proposal or something. And I would say like, hi all, just emailing in regard to the let's find a partnership proposal. Who's the best person to speak to about this? Probably put a little bit more in. Yeah. And then somebody who isn't really anything to do with it, but maybe on the outer circle, like a random publicist, would be like, oh, it's Neil. Oh, well, speak to Neil. Oh, and then somebody else in the channel says, oh, yeah, it's Neil. And then eventually Neil sees all these people and he goes, hi, Imelda, let's jump on a call. And that was how I would get the deals done. I know. So
was it just trial and error?
A lot of trial and error. Yeah. In my first few emails, I do really long pitch about why you need to work with us. I remember I emailed to Naomi Campbell's agent and accidentally put like Scarlett Johansson or something. Everything was messy. It was just me in my bedroom trying to get big A-list celebrities to work with us for free. But after the first couple, you figure out a pattern, you figure out what works, and I figure out what works with the UK agents, what works with the American agents. And so
it must be a confusing time because the signals are saying this is going to work.
Oh, 100%.
And sorry, this is working because you're getting money, you're getting sales, you're getting responses, you're speaking to celebrities and things like that. you've got investment, but at the same time, you said you was using that investment to kind of pay the staff at the time, right?
Oh yeah, so we had like basically we had a really good first few months, those 3 months, and then we never recovered from that for the next 3 years. We were always trying to get back to those first few
Wow.
months. We never hit anywhere near as close as that. We just had an amazing start, and then I could not figure out the magic formula to kind of get back there. So we were growing out of investment. I raised just under 500,000 investment.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot.
It's a lot.
It
How
is
old
a
were you
lot.
then?
I started 19, a few months in I turned 20, so
Yeah.
we'll say 20.
Wow.
Then by 2016, I can't remember exactly what happened. I remember I hired a business development manager, and we're still in Doncaster at this point, and she just kind of looks at everything and says, you know, you can't even pay people like next month. You need to get rid of people.
How
And I
did
was
you
like,
feel
no,
when
no.
that happened?
Oh, I was like, I don't like this woman. I think she's wrong.
Oh, really?
Yes, that's what my ego was telling me, but I knew deep down she was correct.
Yeah,
I think
yeah. I've been
I had
there.
been, yeah. I think I had been seeing a problem on the horizon for a while because we were constantly, as I say, trying to get back to, you know, most months we weren't making any money, and no matter what we did to the tech, I couldn't figure out quite where we'd gone wrong, and so I ended up unfortunately, having to let. This was like my first ever round of firing, like, you know, 6 months after the website being launched.
Oh, wow. So you've had those 3 amazing months, and then 3 months after that,
yes.
you're having to...
Oh, yeah. So
fire
literally
people.
like launched in June kind of thing. By September, things start going a little bit bad. And then by December, I'm letting people go.
Right before Christmas?
Yeah, it was really bad. It was really bad.
Wow.
I had partners... employees' partners ringing in the office, trying to speak to me. I'm obviously...
What, in a pleading way or like angry?
Oh, like an angry way.
Yep.
Like, how can you do this kind of way? I'm like 20 years old as well at this point.
Yeah.
A lot of the people are my friends. Doncaster's a very small town, so even if they're not, I probably know of them in some kind of capacity.
Right.
And then, yeah, hunkered down with myself and I think it was either one other or two of us at this point. We moved out of our offices eventually in 2016, and at this point I had also stupidly gone and got a very large flat in Doncaster, so actually essentially almost had like a living room and an office. I turned my office into a very small living room,
Yeah.
and the living room into like a workspace.
Yeah.
So we were like working out of my flat, like full. I don't know if I thought it was Zuckerberg or what, but like we
No, but the thing
hunkered
is,
down.
like, you had the signals that you're probably getting that from
Yes.
people you're raising money from. And
Exactly.
things like that.
And we still had the investors. I was desperate to pay for the tech. And yeah, so that basically happened in 2016. Then we had a few more indications. This is when I decided to go for the shoppable Instagram. We started talking to a lot of celebrities. All of those agreements then fueled us to be able to raise more investment, do more to the tech. At this point, I started taking out my first few loans and investing them in the business.
Right.
This was just in the shortfall between maybe when investment was going to be due or something.
So you're in a position where you've got all these signals of you've got like contracts in place with celebrities, and then you're about to raise, or
I'd already raised into 2015 and then was continuing to raise throughout 2016.
Right.
I was literally just doing raise after raise after raise. So there is no point now from when I first said that we probably weren't raising investment or taking investment, even if I wasn't actively going out seeking it.
So what made you feel the need to then get these personal loans to put into the business? Or was it a business loan?
No. So I'd initially had a business loan to start the business. That was start of January prior to launch. Then... At this point, we were due a VAT refund from our first year. I think that was worth about 20 grand.
Yeah.
But at this point, I owed a lot of money out. Just, gosh, I can't remember what it was all for now. I think we'd left our old offices, and I'd had some debts overdue there, which,
Yep.
you know, I paid off very quickly with the VAT refund. The rest, I was just plunging everything into tech. 20 grand doesn't really get you very far in terms of trying to build a web application of what we were trying to do.
Sure.
And it wasn't just a simple website. We were trying to do, not at this point, but throughout the kind of the course, you've got thousands of APIs and 2 million products on one search engine, all of which needs to be categorized by, we were basically having to like scrape data and just do smart search. It was really difficult to get right, and obviously I was trying my hardest because I wanted to increase those conversions and try and get back to where we were.
Exactly, yeah. So you're kind of reverse engineering your own products from the start.
Yes. But it didn't matter really
crazy.
what we did. The tech was kind of always our downfall. We were never where we you know, a lot of people have constantly said it to me. Somebody said it to me recently. The idea was amazing. The execution, not so much.
Yep.
And that was literally our kind of downfall. So, yes, then I started taking loans. Then we would get another investment. And kind of the same issue that kept cropping up was that every time there was a shortfall in the business, be it wages, be it tech investment, I would take on more personal loans. Every time the business would do a bit better with investment, maybe new celebrity deal, doesn't matter what kind of money came in, I would never pay off those loans. So over the course of 2-3 years, I'm just racking up debt.
Yeah. Was you like always looking to the long game, like the payday, like someone's going to buy this company, and when that happens, I'm going to get this lump sum and I'm going to clear everything?
Yeah, it wasn't even that, because we were growing through investment. I don't want an angel investor to invest in me £50,000 and I spend 25 grand paying off my loans from a mistake that I maybe, you know, that was my decision a year ago. And I felt, you know, I had to do a lot of kind of soul searching after, but essentially I always felt very selfish for taking anything out of the business. I blamed myself massively in the first year. This was kind of, you know, youthful naivety. In those first 3 months when we did well, and I got an angel investor for 65 grand, and 19, 20-year-old me, I thought I was done. I was like, I've got this business thing down.
Yeah,
I was like,
come on,
who said business is difficult? Like, this is easy, right? I went out and bought a brand new Range Rover. I went and got a penthouse apartment, and I was literally like, this is my life now. Like, I'm just, and, you know, I just got kicked in the gut because literally the month after that happened, it was August. I actually looked at my bank statements one time. It's actually kind of embarrassing. I had an investor meeting. I came down to London, let's say on the Tuesday. On the Thursday, I went and put a £1,000 deposit down on Range Rover. I don't even think we'd signed contract.
Oh, really?
I think I was just like, I'm good. And yeah, I think, you know, what I talk about on my blog is I was very careful not to post my car, my flat, any of my achievements online. But I had this idea of success, which was when you do well, you go get those things. That's what you do. That's
Especially
what you're allowed to do. Oh, 100%. That's what you're meant to do. And I thought I wasn't materialistic because I always made a point of not sharing it online, and I always made a point of not showing off to friends and family or anything. But that obviously was my idea of success. And essentially the taste just soured in my mouth for the next year as I was stuck with bills, and we then had to go back into the flat, and then I was stuck with this stupid car. The insurance on it was ridiculous because I was 20, I wasn't even 21.
Oh, wow.
I think at one point the insurance was worth more than the car I was paying each month. It was horrific. The guy said it was just I had just kind of backed myself into a corner of bad financial decisions, and I'm a person of a lot of extremes. So because that happened, I think the knock-on effect for the next 2 years was that I went completely opposite, and I started almost living like a hobo almost. Like, I refused to get my nails done, get my hair done, get my eyelashes done, see friends, go out, eat out. Everything got put to, every penny got put towards the business, which then in turn was making me...
Oh, that was all going towards the business?
Everything was going towards the business. If I ever got loans, I refused to take any of the money for myself. You know, I kept the car because I didn't know I was able to hand it back early, but I was living in like a box flat at my sister's for a long time. I moved back home for a bit, and
so you left the penthouse?
Oh yeah, I left it all behind. And then in 2017, what I didn't realize happened again was things had started going a bit better. We'd had better celebrity deals. We had started to do stuff on the brand side, on the influencer side, and I started to scale out of investment again, not realizing, looking back, I was basically made the same mistakes that I did 2 years prior, but just on a much bigger level. So instead of me having 5 staff, I think we had either 15 or 20
All right.
at our peak. And I decided that I was fed up of being at my sister's, and I went and got a flat.
Oh, okay.
And
so that was the mistake you're saying, or
yes, it was just, I think, without realizing, I just started growing through investment again. I think.
Oh, I see. Right.
I started counting the money before it actually came in, which was like, if X, Y, and Z goes right, I'm gonna be okay.
Yeah.
And then X, Y, and Z all went wrong.
Which it usually does.
I know.
Which is annoying.
I know.
That's mad. So, I mean, I've obviously read your blog, and let's talk some numbers because
Okay.
because it would help people. I think.
Of course.
You said you were like 100K.
Yeah, it's more than 100K.
It was more like 150, isn't it?
Yeah. I think as in over the period of those 3 years, definitely it was probably went up to like. It was, I think what I was managing at one point was 150 grand, but there was other things that I'd paid off that I didn't even, list. Like I said, the office from like 2016,
Right.
that was paid out of the VAT refund. So
Yeah.
I've never really listed that as a debt. But yeah, 45 grand car. I had the £13,000 business loan. I had a £30,000 business loan. We had 250 from another old offices. Can you see how the same mistakes kind of crop up again and again? I had like 4 grand on personal credit cards. I'm struggling to remember them all now. But I had about 20 odd grand from HMRC. There was a PAYE debt that I had mucked up over the course of a few years.
Right.
And yeah, so once
HMRC is not really friendly with mucking up, is it?
HMRC is not friendly with mucking up. And
like, your mistake, sorry.
I know. And so, I just wrote something recently that they sent me a letter in, it was a lot smaller. And I paid a little bit. I think I made a payment agreement, and then 1 month it bounced, and then they didn't get in touch. And I was like, I'm just going to see where this goes. Didn't get in touch for about another 18 months, and then it was like, knock, knock, knock. We're HMRC, we're coming for you.
Of course.
And, but prior to that, I actually found it was like a intermediary kind of debt management company, and I paid them money prior to anything escalating with HMRC.
Yeah.
Another massive mistake that I made, I was paying them £1,000 a month, and I didn't realise in the fine print of the contract that like the first 2 months payment didn't even go to HMRC. So when a bailiff turns up, month 2 to 3, I said, well, I've already paid you £3,000, and we sent you a letter. And he was like, is it this letter? And he said, we haven't had any money. So I ring the company, and they were like, oh no, so those were our management fees. And yeah, so if anybody's ever going through any kind of debt thing, never pay an intermediary company to manage the debt for you. So yeah, I know I wrote something on my blog about bailiffs turning up, and I didn't want anybody to think I'd just let it escalate to that. I tried to sort things about
but that's usually how it happens. Like,
yeah,
I mean, obviously there are people that just kind of stick their heads in the sand.
The guy was really nice. No, he wasn't. Oh, he wasn't at first, but I think
Oh, okay.
Northern Lass, Northern Lass, cup of tea. I sat him down and kind of, I didn't tell him the whole sob story, but I think as long as you're understanding and really apologetic, something cropped up. I think it was earlier this year, and he rang me on my mobile and just said, Imelda, are you still in Manchester? Like,
oh, wow.
I was like, yeah. And it was really funny because at one point I was talking to him about stuff, and I was ready to pay him. I had money in my account to pay, and I thought that's what the meeting was. And I think he thought that by me talking to him so much, just being nice, I didn't want to pay.
Oh, okay.
And he just kind of went, it's because they're called HMRC enforcement officers.
Yeah.
And he went, listen, Imelda, I know it says an enforcement officer, but at the end of the day, I'm a bailiff. I don't like saying it, but I'm a bailiff.
Yeah.
So you need to pay. And I was like, oh no, Mr. Anderson, like I'm going to pay. Sorry, I was just like asking how your holiday had been and stuff. Like whatever. I don't know. It's like,
he probably thought he was getting too comfy, like.
Oh yeah. And I was like, no, but he was probably as nice as you could be.
Yeah, exactly. Wow. I mean, you wrote that. You kind of went through like a PTSD with that whole thing, like
100%.
You keep your phone on do not disturb,
yeah.
and it's hard for people to understand that why you would do that. And when I read that, I was like, I've been through exactly the same thing. Like my phone's constantly on do not disturb.
Yeah.
Specifically from going through a period like that, where the very sound of even vibration on a bed stool or the ringtone just sends your heart racing. It's like, no, I don't want to do it.
I still have issues now. So I'd borrowed some money from my mum. One of the credit cards was hers, but one of the things that I did detail that my mum and dad were chucking me really large sums of money also at this point. And, you know, on one side you had everything that was going well with the company, all the deals that they knew we were putting together. You know, we were going to Boohoo's head offices, we were speaking to Pretty Little Thing, just everything on one side. On the flip side, you had me taking on so much debt, sometimes having good months, sometimes having terrible months, being sky high with a deal and then through the floor if it didn't come together. And every time my mum would ring me, she could be ringing me just saying, how your day been? I didn't know if she'd be shouting at me in tears, a letter had come, or just asking me how I am. And sometimes if she did ask me how I am and I say, actually, I'm not good because of this, you know, they were going through it as well. Exactly. So then it very quickly became that I was comforting them all the time. So I didn't feel like I was able to talk about what I was going through because I had put most of my immediate and wider family, I'd embroiled them all in my mess. Right. So yeah, definitely.
And then you want to avoid that.
Oh, definitely.
Massively.
And, you know, like the whole thing about phone calls, you know, even on Do Not Disturb, I would like Range Rover. They have this thing where it's an automated system, so it's not a person ringing, it's like a computer. So I would like pick up my phone to like 36 missed calls from Range Rover because it's just like ring and ring and ring and ring and ring and ring. Right. It was horrific. I was just like, they were the worst ones, but you know, it was the same with anything. Most of the credit card companies I was having was like that. So I would pick up to look at my phone, or even if I was texting, they were flying in at the top and texts of missed call. So it was just, you didn't even want to touch your phone.
No, exactly, because you could be on the phone doing your business and you could be you could be in the flow of, I don't know, you could be speaking to an investor or something and you might have you might have a hands-free or something and you're on the phone and then you see this bubble come up at the top and it's a preview of a message or a missed call.
Yeah.
It just totally takes you out of the flow.
Do Not Disturb doesn't work whilst you're on the phone. So if you're on the phone, you have to reject it. So if I was on the phone to my sister, if I was on the phone with anything, it was just like, you know, I can just feel it next to me, like, bzz, and I'm just like on speaker, like reject.
Oh man, yeah, been there. Definitely. You mentioned, so obviously 150,000 is a lot. But how did that break down into per month? Because obviously these are payments per month. I know in your blog you said it was around 4,500.
Yeah, it's about 4,500 on loan payments.
How was you dealing with that in terms of just bringing that in?
It was super high pressure. You know, at this point,
was you borrowing from Peter to pay to
Paul? 100%. That's often what it felt like. And you know, it's you can do it for 1-2 months and then you just backslide. And there was little things like what I was doing for the first few months, and it was just really terrible, was, you know, obviously you've got 30-day pay periods, for example, of all your credit card payments and stuff. You know, one I would let go up to 60 days and then I would settle it, and then it would just mean that the next one I'd push to like 60 or 90 days and then I'd set, and I was pushing everything up until I was gonna get into real trouble, like CCJs and default. So I would never let it get that far, but I really didn't care if it was 1-2 months late and to deal with the phone calls. You can only really do that for 1-2 months. Before then you literally can't keep up with it. You're gonna start falling into that real danger zone.
So really treading water.
Yeah, so it was 4,500 grand, in kind of loan repayments. On top of that, obviously, you've also got cost of living. I wasn't at home. You know, it was racking up to well over kind of 5 grand. That's me personally. I still had a staff member at this point, and me and my sister were doing stuff, and she's obviously not taking any money out of the business, and I'm taking thousands of pounds each month, and she is letting me because she knows I need it. Right. So when we were not squabbling over money, no, we didn't fight, but we were almost like, if there was £1,000 in the business, I'm saying I desperately needed it for this, and she's like, well, I also have to bring money in. I also have rent and stuff.
That's right, yeah.
And it was just really hard. It was really hard.
So your whole family is kind of embroiled in this, in
100%
this
everybody's
mess.
embroiled. So my half sister, like her family on her side, who aren't even like my blood
Oh,
relations.
really?
Yeah, he had all my family. I mean, the issue is that when things were good, everybody wants in. Everybody thinks you're going up, and everybody, it's like Bitcoin, people just they genuinely, they don't know what
Yeah.
they're investing in. They see it going to the moon.
Yeah.
And everybody thought I was some kind of whiz, which I never touted myself to be.
Mm.
And then when things are going bad, I just felt the full responsibility of everything, even though a lot of the time I never actually other than my mum and dad, I never said, hey, can everybody give, it was everybody
Yeah.
like, hey, can I invest?
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, sure.
Yeah, of course.
And we went through these periods of, there were, it sounds all very doom and gloom, but you would have 6 months and stuff where I just had people chucking money at me.
Yeah, yeah.
And, left, right and centre.
I can understand why that's a hugely confusing time. I mean, I've been there in terms of when there's hype around you, and there's big numbers floating around and being transferred into your account. It's confusing. You're like, well, obviously, I'm going to make it because these people that are super smart are investing a lot of money into me. Do you know what I mean? So,
And I really lost the value of money, unfortunately. That was the thing as well. I got really out of touch with... When you're having a 15k burn rate, like, what does a couple of grand feel like? And it was really difficult for me as well because I also felt really isolated from a lot of my friends. So in Doncaster, at that age especially, firstly, a lot of my friends were at university, so they weren't earning anything. They were, everybody was just waiting for the student loans to drop and stuff, and I'm dealing with hundreds of thousands of pounds worth of investment.
Yeah.
On top of that, you've got most people on 16, 18, 20 grand probably max kind of wages. So when I'm losing 20 grand in a month, it's like two different worlds.
it's just numbers at that point.
It is. And, when I was trying to explain to my friends, I remember one of them said, like, why don't you... I think they said something about the RAF, and I was like... They said they pay really well, and I had a look, and it was like 18 grand, and I just thought, I probably wouldn't even cover one staff member. Like,
Yeah. And that's for a year, right?
Yeah, exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
Wow. So talk to me about that as well, because you got the pressure from your family, your extended family, who you didn't request money from, but they gave it to you. And when they give it to you, there's expectancy when things aren't going well. Expectancy from friends, because obviously now you're kind of high rolling as a 20-year-old, and everyone else isn't. There's a level of expectancy that happens there as well. And then obviously your mum and dad as well, which is probably the closest in terms of like you don't want to get them involved in your ups and downs.
Yes.
What was going through, or what wasn't going through your mind at those points? Because I know you spoke about like a level of like numbness.
Yeah, I think the numbness a lot of the time was when the final time in 2017 when I realised that I couldn't do it anymore, and I got rid of a lot of the staff. Well, I let them go, which was really difficult for me because a lot of them were friends or people who'd been with me for years and come back after the first time I let them go. Again, by more their request than mine. But still, it didn't matter. I always felt the full weight of being the CEO, and I always blamed myself wholly. When I recently spoke about letting the staff go, and people say, like, oh, how can you not give, you're an employer, how can you not give notice, blah, blah, blah. I'd actually said for months that if we did not hit sales targets, I would not be able to keep people in employment. But I had created a culture of nobody understood the full breadth and depth of the issues other than Harriet, who's my sister. So although I was saying things aren't good, I would always just get another loan to make wages. I never missed one payday in 3 years, no matter what I went through. I took the full brunt of that. But then what that did mean is that when things came crashing down, everybody was like, where the fuck did this come from? Because they didn't believe me. Because every
you always
time I
kept it
was...
afloat.
100%, and they didn't understand all the backdoor deals, and at one point I was selling stuff to just make ends meet, but yeah. And so I think personally, I was really suffering, had very bad anxiety. I did feel very numb. And I mean, by 2017, I wasn't even really processing my emotions. I think I remember when things went really bad in 2016, I was just overflooded with emotions. It was so funny because looking back, it was just stupid what I was getting upset about. But basically, an investor said he was going to invest, and he invested a month late, than what he said he was going to do, a month or 2 months late. And I had a clothes show, we were going to sponsor them, and they emailed me saying, like, are you going to make this payment? Oh, I remember walking around my flat crying like it was going to be the end of the world. Fast forward 2 years, I actually had real issues, and I couldn't even shed a tear. I just went into complete robo mode. Wow. Yes. And it's funny because the time when I was probably going to say that I was most emotional, I was most at my lowest, was in 2016, when I wasn't dealing with a fraction of the problems that I was. Sorry, 2015 wasn't dealing with a fraction of the problems I was that, like, 2017, 2018. It was a new way of kind of processing things.
Because you'd gone through a level of it.
Yes,
before.
I think I'd gone through a level of it. I think in a very kind of deep way, I could say to myself that you've been through something like this before and you came out the other end.
Right.
So,
and there's no point being emotional.
Exactly.
It's not going to change anything.
Another part of that was I literally had my entire family's fates, like, on my back. If I did not pull myself out of this, I was going to drag everybody down with me. And you can't really afford to get upset. You just have to kind of figure a way through it. So it's only when things got better, it was really funny. I had a really weird thing. It even was at the start of this year, back end of last, just crying all the time over nothing. It's like everything I'd been through.
So it was all just coming out?
It just all just came out. I remember I just went to my mum, just absolutely crying about Idris Elba, and just said...
What, him getting married?
That as well. That as well. But I just said, like, I was so stupid. Like, Idris Elba, he said he wanted equity. We had loads of sit-downs with his agents. They were very impressed by me. I'd learned from Kelly Osbourne. I'd offered a 2% sweat equity. And I was very like, that's the value of 20 grand, let's say, or whatever. And they said no. Deal went cold because I had never put together a deal like that before. Again, 1920. Year on, learned a little bit. Offered him 11%. Can't remember how I came to it. Came to some random figure, something weird like 11.35. I think I thought it might sound fancy. Anyway.
I've done my math.
Yeah. They were like, not going to happen. Too low.
Yeah.
And I was like, you've got to remember as well, I'd been cutting large parts of this company off. So much more than that, I would have lost control, my controlling stake.
Oh, right.
So I kind of was like, that's as high as we can go.
Yeah.
And they said, like, no, sorry, best of luck with things.
Right.
And so, just like...
So that memory came back.
It was just weird. It was like back in the last year. I just started crying.
Because obviously you've learned a lot from then.
I just started crying to my mum, and I think it's when I saw Idris Elba doing these things, and he's doing all new films, and he did the Fast and Furious, and was he going to be James Bond? And I was like, maybe if we just got that, everything would be different. But, my mum was really right, and she just said, like, imagine the additional pressure. She said it wouldn't have changed a thing. The tech would have still broken.
Yep.
But on top of it, you would have then had to deal with a celebrity ambassador who had equity in your company, who is Idris Elba. And I was like, you're right. But it was like I was working through everything. That's just one. It was like, it was like it all kept bubbling up, and I had to kind of work through it.
It's a lot. It is a lot. I mean, because when you swim through those waters, and then, like you said, something else just comes over you, and you just like, oh, I'm not going to be emotional whatsoever. And then, like you said, you clean things up a bit, and then you get out of it, and then you have this hangover of emotion. Yes. And then it's kind of compounded with looking back, because you're in a smarter place now, because you've learned. And you're like, how was I so stupid?
Yeah.
And you start beating yourself up.
I lost time. I let a lot of the staff go. I think it was end of September or start of October, around that time in 2017. From then until January, so I had another tax refund coming in January of 2018, and I know that, things kind of went from there, but I remember it was like getting worse and worse and worse. And I was looking through my Instagram recently, and, like, I went out and literally I looked and I thought, you wouldn't even be able to tell what I was
Nah,
going through.
yeah,
There was
yeah.
little things like, it was my sister's hen party and we've put on a beautiful photo and I was coppering up for that night, you know, and my friends came out. There's one in October of my friends came over for the first time to visit me in Manchester, my two best friends.
Yeah.
And they knew like that things weren't good, but they didn't understand the level. I sold a really old TV and an old camera whilst they were there, and they were like, weird. And I'm just like, oh, you know, I'm just like getting rid of junk.
Yeah,
and I'm
yeah.
like, no, that was my money to go out that night.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and so it's really hard to talk about because it was really embarrassing. And what I feel really bad about is that I didn't actually let a lot of people in on how bad it was. I just really put on a front. Even now, people who are like, okay, so when I came to your house on this time, were you going through that? And I was kind of like, you know, even now I was like, oh, you know, when I was like, oh no, yeah, it was actually really bad.
Yeah.
It was.
Yeah. And it takes a lot to admit that you go through that. you
Yeah.
know. Yeah. I mean, there was a time for when me and my missus went through a similar period where, you know, we're known to always like celebrate birthdays and like it'll be no expense spared within what we have. Like we're always going to show up. And there was a point where it was only Nando's. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not saying like only Nando's,
Yeah.
but there was a birthday and we couldn't afford it.
Yeah.
We couldn't even afford to share.
Yeah.
We still turned up
Yeah.
because we were like, no, we have to because
Yeah.
we're not gonna not be a friend.
Yeah.
Because we at this moment can only afford the petrol to get there.
Yeah.
You know. And then at the same time when we were there, you know, people were offering. It's like, oh, just get whatever. But
Yeah.
then we were so deep in shame
Yeah.
that one, it's weird because you can be a generous person yourself, and you know, if you see someone who's in need, be like, yeah, whatever, just yeah, it's cool. When you're on the other side of the coin, it's like, oh, this feels weird. This feels different. Like I don't want to accept anything because it kind of doubles down on the shame and embarrassment.
But I think that was part of my issue, is that I was too giving and I had gotten myself to a point. I personally believe what I now know is that if you always put yourself last and you don't value yourself, then money isn't going to come to you because you're not valuing yourself. So by me consistently putting the business, the staff, everybody else, even my family and friends, even their emotions above my own, and I didn't know how to be selfish. And this was something that I think that maybe I used to do when I was younger, or I've always done, just with the kind of family unit that we had, and it just was like getting worse and worse and worse until I kind of dealt with it and gone, actually, I'm not okay, and I have to put me first, and I need to sort this out for me. And it was until I dealt with that, I was just, you know, I'll give anything up to anyone. There was silly little things like, you know, a staff member left and said, you know, you said you were going to pay for my flat deposit. I 100% did not say I was going to pay for her flat deposit.
Yeah.
And I still gave her money for a flat deposit. And this was like on a credit card, so it's not like I had the cash.
Oh, bloody hell.
Oh, yeah, this was like I was already doing credit cards to give everybody their last wages. And I was just
personal.
Oh yeah, and I was just doing that because, you know, I don't know, like not afraid of confrontation, but it was almost like I didn't want anybody to think bad of me, or, you know, I wanted, but
it's your reputation.
Yeah, but that's almost an insecurity of, I'm so scared that you're going to think badly of me that I will do anything, and it was this constant need to please and to feel good in everybody else's eyes, shareholders, family, friends, staff, that I was just tormenting myself and doing really weird things because I was so paranoid that, you know, they were going to go off and say something nasty about me as an employer, as a businesswoman, whatever. And it's really funny because...
Well, ultimately as a person.
Oh, 100%.
That you let them down.
Oh, yes. And I really had to deal with that with myself because, you know, I had, you know, at the end of the day, I created every single situation that happened at Let Us Find It. There is nobody else to, you know, either blame or give credit to other than me there. And when I was feeling the worst about myself, it really showed up in the business. And, you know, even like me not telling the staff, I would say, things are bad, but if we just do this, and it was like this horrible optimism all the time. So, you know, even that's at my feet.
You want to keep sales up as well, right?
Exactly.
So low morale doesn't your good sales.
Exactly, but I wasn't. I was treating everybody like a baby,
Yeah.
and by protecting them too much. And these people are older than me or my age,
Yeah.
and you know,
So you learned a lot in that period in terms of how you communicate to people and like the level of respect
100%.
you or credit you give to people.
Yeah, and also the kind of you know, insecurities of myself and like this needing to be liked and stuff. I really had to deal with that. I think everybody has it on some level.
Yeah.
I think it just came out a lot for me, but I really started looking at you know, I'll be honest, my youngest brother, I take a lot of inspiration from him, because he just does not give a shit what anybody thinks about.
It's a good way to be.
It is, and you know, and there was a lot of males in my life that I started to try and bring out the kind of more masculine side of me, in the fact that, you know, I'm gonna do me and I'm gonna do my best, and if you don't like it, then that's okay, because I did my best,
Right.
rather than me trying to mold myself, give money, do deals, let people have equity.
Yeah.
You know, I was letting people, you know, if you were employed by me and you said, oh, you know, my mate Jack, he's really good on social media, I think you really need him, he really needs a job, he's coming to uni,
right.
I'd be like, oh, okay, 100% couldn't afford it.
Oh man.
It was just, you know, I was obsessed with every sob story and every waif and stray. And, you know, that definitely compounded as well when I was trying to outsource, and we ended up hiring a few Cambodians, and who had previously gone over, loved Cambodia. And
Oh, okay, so you actually been there.
yeah, I'd been there prior to, let's find it, I'd done backpacking, loved the country, got a few, and then, oh gosh, you want to hear sob stories, like then you start hiring from outside the UK, and it's just like, can my cousin have a job? You're helping us with this. Oh, and it was just, you know, you're talking like 300, 400 pounds a month here, but you know,
what that means over there is
the police full time over there earn about £200 a month. So
oh wow,
yeah, this was everything, and they were really good girls and good people, but it was just me. I was just it was just this giving.
That's a
all
lot of
the time.
energy and yeah, that's just a lot of energy to take in from people. That's definitely had to have like been taxing.
And I think I was too, I was far too, like, I don't want to say naive, but I was like, I always saw the best in people, and it actually really, I've had to really harden myself. I have to actively harden myself because I'm a very kind of soft person.
Right.
So I have to really consciously make the decision of people lie. You know, like I always say, there are so many sharks in business. You know, one of my shareholders essentially tried to stage a coup and take over a CEO.